Now we'll integrate Tailwind CSS into our FastAPI HTMLs. So to start, let's do the prerequisite. We'll create a Tailwind CSS directory, seed into it, where we'll keep all our Tailwind CSS assets. Let's install the npm module. If you don't have npm utility, you'll need to install the Node.js packages on your system. So Tailwind CSS is a CSS framework that we'll be using here. It makes our styling very easy. We have already done the install for the module. Now we need to initialize it and then add the content that it need to trace for the CSS classes that it need to use. So npx Tailwind CSS init will initialize Tailwind CSS for our project. Let's open the tailwind.config.js. We'll add the content that it need to look for, so the template path, and to let it check all the HTML file, we'll give it a wildcard.html. Now we'll create a style/CSS file where we'll be including the modules that we want to use. So the structure is at Tailwind base, components, utilities, the basic modules that get used. Let's move it to main.css file name, so we don't override the existing CSS file that we have when we generate it. As you see, currently index.css exists. Now we'll generate our main.css using npx tailwind css -i, giving it the input to the file that we just created, and -o the path to the file that we want to generate using it. It will scan the content HTML files and build it. Now let's use FlowBite, a site that provides several web components that uses Tailwind CSS classes. So here we'll be adding a banner, simple banner for example. Let's clean it up a bit as we want a sample here only. Let's change the title to HowTo. Now that we have added new components to our HTML files, we'll need to regenerate the CSS that we have. So now that we rebuild, we see the checksum has changed. We have a new CSS file available based on the new component that we added. Let's change our CSS file to main.css, so we can see the use of Tailwind CSS classes that we are using. Let's start the server first. Forgot that. Wrong directory. Yep. Now that we see, we don't see the text here. I must clean up the component a bit more. I must have left something. Let's remove these more elements. Refreshing it shows our title in a banner here using the Tailwind CSS modules. Now let's enlarge the text using, so just changing these classes would implement our new styling. Now that we see, we don't see a change here because we haven't rebuilt the CSS file that we needed to. So let's do that. Wrong directory. I should go back to the Tailwind CSS directory that I created. Rebuild. Let's restart the server. Refresh. We see the changes here. So this was a simple use. More next.